I believe Troy, one of our other members, and Sam were mentioning that these noises, almost like grunts or some kind of an animal sound, was coming from that area as well. And it kept going for, I don't know how long, maybe a couple hours during our Skywatch time. Do you remember that, Scotty?
Oh, yeah, it just would happen occasionally, and then nothing. And then you kind of hear this sort of a thump, like a big heavy step or a snap. I don't recall any like baseball bat size thumping trees or anything like that, but just there was something out there.
Yeah.
It didn't sound small. It wasn't some chipmunk in a tree over the top of you. It was off at least 100 feet, something in that category like that, or farther, double that. Making some sort of stir.
It definitely sounded like a few wood knocks for sure out there. But those limb snaps were very interesting and quite loud during that period of time. Okay, so now what we're going to do is now we're going to end the Skywatch night by everyone pretty much kind of gave up the ghost on the Skywatch that night around midnight, if I remember. Is that right, Scotty?
Yeah, everyone was freezing. It was cold.
So we make a dash and grab all of our gear and go back to the campsite, and fire up the campfire for the night. And I believe at that point there were quite a few of the team that were just sitting around the campfire, kind of debriefing from the day's activities and the Skywatches. When, if you can relate, maybe Scotty, what Sam and Troy was mentioning about some more activity that could have been Sasquatch activity in the background next to the campsite.
Well, they kept saying that they saw something, but I didn't notice anything myself. It was the next night the next day we had anomalies with our compasses. That was a significant thing to me. How none of our compasses worked. My expensive GPS system for my motorcycle, the compass didn't work on that. Sam came walking up to my Equinox at night. She turned on the headlights somehow, which she can't do unless you get inside the vehicle. And I had the keys in my pocket, and it's like, what? How did she turn that on? That was an odd one.
Well, let's take those one at a time and kind of explain what we're talking about there. So initially, I understand that Troy and Sam were at least the ones that thought that they saw some kind of shadow activity walking through the trees, and it was backlit or illuminated by the full moon. Because the full moonlight that night was so bright, you didn't even have to have a flashlight to walk around the campsite. I remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty dark in the trees, but the moon did help quite a bit. There was some shadowy areas, but I can't recall exactly what they were describing. In Sam and their partner Kevin, they talked about Sasquatch and stuff for quite a while. Many examples, so it's all kind of a blur. But they've got a massive knowledge of those creatures, and very interesting discussion. I mean, these people really know some things about it, and Sam can sense something.
Yes, they seem to have. They seem to have a little intuitiveness going on there when they were looking in certain directions at certain time. And then in the morning, I remember there was what Troy was looking at looked like to be some kind of footprint as well in the forest floor around the campfire. We got that on tape as well. It's very hard to see, and it wouldn't take a cast at all. But it is kind of interesting, and with the corroborative sounds and the tree snaps and the shadows that we're seeing around the camp, that was kind of fascinating. But let's now concentrate on the interesting electromagnetic anomalies that were happening that night. First of all, I remember that Dan Weiss, the producer of Ambition Pictures, was there with his son, Josh, the cameraman, and they decided to retire around maybe 1 o'clock in the morning to go to bed. And since their tent had flooded the night before, they decided they were going to sleep in their car that night. Do you remember that on that, Scotty?
Oh, yeah. And, well, Dan went in first, and then the son jumped in later, and he was going to turn on the light for him. The light wouldn't turn on inside the car. What? I mean, this is like a 2-month-old brand new car, and the entire electrical system, just absolutely nothing. He tried turning on the light. He tried messing with the ignition, I believe, and it just wasn't anything there, just like Mary's car. Totally flat dead. So he just got the heck. Okay, they climbed in, and they just went to sleep. And then the next day, it's just fine.
Yeah, so let's make sure that people understand the timing on that. They decide, I think Dan decided to go to bed about 1 o'clock in the morning that night, which would actually have been Tuesday morning, but basically it's late Monday night. And he goes in and turns on the car at that point, and the car works fine. His brand new leased vehicle that he has was working just fine. And then I think he said about an hour later, or in his recollection, I believe he's saying 10 minutes later, he thought his son came and joined him in the car. But there is a kind of a discrepancy there in time on when indeed his son actually joined him from the campfire to going into the car to go to sleep. So that is one indication that we had some fuzziness about the actual time frame. But then I understand that about 3 in the morning or so, someone, or, oh, hang on a second, you guys. Is someone making noises there in the background? Someone, yeah, be careful that you're not breathing very hard or touching the microphones on your phone there, because it'll actually, come across the air very loud. So anyway, what happened was at about, we understand about 3 in the morning, Dan Weiss wakes up to turn the car on to try to get some heat going in the vehicle. And that's when the car would not work at all. That was 3 in the morning. Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to ask whoever is rustling in the background there. We're going to have to either stop that or just hang up on your end so we don't have to hear the rustling in the background. Okay, everybody. Who do we have? Who do we have on the line now? Let's take an inventory. Is Mary still here?
I am. I have my phone on mute though.
Okay, great. And who do we have? Lee Strauss. Are you still there, Lee?
Here I am.
Okay, I think it's your phone, buddy, that's feeding back here a little bit. I tell you what, you can probably drop off at this point if you want, because I think we're going to go on with some of the other things at Takalaka Lake, if you would like.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, buddy.
Good night. Oh.
Okay. And now we have Scotty, we have Mary, and myself, and do we have Kathy, or actually Bree on the line?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, great. All right, I think it's settled down a little bit here as far as the background noise. And so what happened then at about 3 in the morning? Dan Weiss's car would not start, just like Mary's car would not start. And, of course, at that point, he decides that he's just going to tough it out with his son in the vehicle anyway, because at least they were going to stay dry. And, of course, in the morning, quite early, when they woke up or got out of the car at about 7:30 or so, the car started right up. So that was an anomalous, strange thing that happened in the middle of the night there. And then Lee is sitting there. Scotty is sitting there by the campfire along with us. And all of a sudden, his car just turns on. The lights come on. Is that right, Scotty?
Yeah. I was sitting there. I mean, we're just looking at the campfire. There's no other light. I look at, what the heck's all this light? Well, the headlights on my Equinox just turned on. What the heck is this? So I get up to go turn them off. Now, the only way to turn them on, you've got to get into the vehicle, stuff the key in the ignition, and turn the thing on. Then the automatic light thing goes. Okay. Well, the key is in my pocket. Okay. The other option is get on the little turn signal thing and twist the knob. That can turn on manually. nobody got into the vehicle because he opened the door and the interior lights would turn on, and it takes a few seconds for the lights to dim and close down. And there wasn't enough time frame there, because the lights turned on. And I go, what? And I got up and walked over there. And what does it turn on my lights in my head? This has never happened since I've owned the vehicle for I don't know how many years now. And then all of a sudden Sam comes walking up the road and it's like, oh, hi, Sam. And she said, boy, it sure is dark out here. Yeah, my headlights turned on for some reason. And she looks at me and said, I probably did that. And okay then.
Well, I'd like to say something really quick about all this.
Yeah, go ahead, Bree. But if you can speak up, we can get you better on the sound here.
Okay, is that better?
Not quite. You got to speak up louder than that.
That night, when everyone was having the unusual problems with their batteries and their lights, I had left. I attempted to go up to the campground, but got on the wrong road, and then it started to rain, so I headed up to Olympia to see a friend of mine, and I stayed overnight there. But the entire night, after having 2 excellent nights of sleep at the Assetti Ranch on Saturday and Sunday, the next night, or Friday and Saturday night, Sunday night, when you guys were having all the strange things going on at your campsite, I was restless the entire night. And it was one of the most restless sleeps I've ever had. So I'm just kind of putting 2 and 2 together and wondering if they're connected in any way after we were all at the Assetti Ranch.
Yes, right. And this would have been which night again, and how far away were you at that night?
Well, that was Sunday night, and I was in Olympia. And
my gosh.
It was quite a drive, probably 3.5 hours away.
Yeah, but you, sounds like you had some residual effects taken with you. If you were sleeping so well at the ranch when we were there, and all of a sudden you went home, maybe we're all connected somehow anyway doing this whole thing, because we've been working together for so long, and you were possibly even feeling what was going on back at the camp there. But of course...
Well, very, very possibly. I am intuitive, and I do feel off of other people's feelings. And I think that was the connection there. Because it sounded like it was a very restless night for most of you there at the campsite, as was for me, 3.5 hours away in Olympia.
Fascinating. Yes. And of course, we're all pretty tired from the Skywatch at about midnight. And then all this electromagnetic effects start happening at 1 o'clock in the morning, to 3 o'clock in the morning. And Scotty's lights in his SUV just come on with no indication of why they did. Matter of fact, you were mentioning, Scotty, that your key fob doesn't have the capability to turn your lights on.
Yeah, I had to pick that thing over. I was wondering if I bent over or something and pushed some pressure on it, but there is no option on that thing to turn on anything. I can turn on the alarm thing and it'll honk at you and unlock or lock the doors. And that is it. There's no other option. And it's like, alrighty. Well, as long as the thing keeps working, I'm good.
Okay.
But that was interesting.
Well, now let's. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to regale the facts that happened at the pop-up trailer that I was sleeping in that night, along with Kevin Beagle and his wife Sam. We were all together in this very nice, beautiful pop-up trailer, and I was sleeping on one side, they were sleeping on the other side. And, of course, I get there maybe 1 o'clock in the morning from the campfire, and we all retire to go to sleep. But all of a sudden, literally at 3:15 in the morning, the battery that is keeping the heat and my CPAP machine running at night, because I have sleep apnea, all of a sudden the battery went dead. So my CPAP machine stops working, and immediately when that invariably happens, which it hardly ever does, but I'm out camping and all of a sudden the battery goes dead, and all of a sudden I wake up because there's no pressure on my CPAP machine. So I look at my watch and I notice that it's exactly 3:15 a.m. And I decide, well, I better get up anyway and go to the bathroom at my